Welcome, everybody. It is time for another episode that's been long awaited for in our anime talks. It's been a long time. I know. I apologize. I've been watching diligently on a few animes. I'm currently watching third season Demon Slayer. That'll be Swordsmith Village arc. And we are also watching Spy Family, watching that with my kid. Did just finish watching Heavenly Delusion. That's Tengoku Damakyo. We were watching that. That was the last episode that we covered that anime. But in this one, we will be touching on it's a little something for my law enforcement or people into mystery, suspense, thriller type of animes. And this one is pretty solid. Heavily recommended. And we're just going to jump right into it. We are getting into Psycho-Pass, y'all. So get ready. So in Psycho-Pass, we have, it's a very well crafted. I say that about just about every episode. And it's because I do not miss when it comes down to choosing different animes to cover. I try my best to stay away from bringing something that's not worth mentioning, just so y'all can have a little bit of variation of what to watch. But it's good stuff. It's always going to be good stuff. But to dive in, we have a futuristic cyberpunk-esque, the Japan type of setting. And it's pretty nice. I really do recommend for those who played Cyberpunk or like just Cyberpunk themed animes. This is it for you. This is like the bread and butter of those kind of things. It's very short. It's worthwhile. It has a couple sequels. They also have movies. I have to go watch the movies. I have not watched the movies, so bear with me. I'm only covering the anime. So we have Psycho-Pass and Psycho-Pass 2. They're kind of like hand in hand. Psycho-Pass 3, I did not watch that one. That's the crazy part. I didn't watch that one. It has it was released 2019, but it was not dubbed. I watched the whole thing dubbed, y'all. So it's I love the voice actors for the dub. They were amazing. They did great. So we're gonna jump into it. So in this in Psycho-Pass, they have a system called the Sybil system that kind of monitors the behavior, or let's just say the subconscious of a person, to try to see if they are having good thoughts or so. It's called a coefficient, and it's based on their crime activity in their brain. So it's pretty interesting. So if it flags you off, it burns you. It is wild, like, on how that works. So with that being said, this is all ran under a Sybil system. This anime that I'm covering here, we will definitely keep this spoiler free. In my other reviews, I do heavy spoilers, and this is just one of them. I'm gonna move from that. We're gonna try to cover as much as possible without spoiling. So that just bear with me here. We're gonna try our best to cover all this without tearing up any surface of the show. And they have the Public Safety Bureau that takes care of all this. They're like kind of like the security forces of the whole thing. They monitor, and they are directly under the Sybil system. They follow that and go under the enforcement. So when they check your Psycho-Pass, which is the coding, or that is let's say that is what they monitor, your Psycho-Pass, which is your brain scanned for your crime coefficient, and it throws up a number, and it lets you know how far you are within being, or whether that be really clear or cloudy. And usually you're penalized and you're apprehended, arrested, whatever. Once you pass the threshold of 100, then they're allowed to just do whatever to you. And it's crazy because that's kind of like one of those, like, okay, funny situation. Like my mom always, if she had a suspicion without proof, 9 times out of 10 she'd hit me up just because it's just one of those situations. And it's like, because I thought you did it. This is like that. Like, it's just, we thought you was going to be bad, so we're going to take you in and get you taken care of. And it depends on what kind of level that you have to pass. Sometimes they just take you, move you away, isolate you, let your psychopaths come down, and then go from there. If it's higher, then they'll move to further punishments or go further in the penal code and take care of you in other different ways, whether that is actually lock you up for a while, all kinds of different things. And then they have different types of breakdowns of this, and they have inspectors and enforcers. Now, this is a crazy dynamic as well. The inspectors are your everyday, let's just say your investigators, like kind of like your crime scene investigators. You're just your regular standard officers. They do the arresting and all that. But what is wild is that they have a mechanic to where the enforcers are people who are latent criminals that were charged, and they are used to protect the inspectors. How crazy is that? That is so wild. That's beyond me, that the people that they hire or that they use to take care of chasing around criminals are criminals themselves. It's pretty cool. And they're kind of like, it sounds bad, but they're like dogs on a leash. It's very weird. Bear with me. You have to watch it. If you watch it, you'll understand. You'll like it. It's very interesting on how the play-by-play on that goes. Also, without spoiling, there's like a certain relationship that goes on that's revealed later on in the show with an inspector and an enforcer. It's really good. Got to check it out. With that being said, the way that they scan the psychopaths and check your crime coefficient is with a gun called a Dominator. That Dominator is able to scan and be able to take care of the rating of somebody's crime coefficient. If it goes off, now that's the crazy part. This gun also has a certain threshold of what it does when it scans somebody. It's not allowed. You're not allowed to kill an inspector. Okay, no, wait. The inspector is the only ones that are allowed to use the gun. It is programmed to them. So that means nobody else can pick up their gun and kill anybody, because the inspectors are the only ones registered to be able to use this. That is a very interesting dynamic. It also it's like gun control. It takes care of just being able to take it and be able to, off somebody else. Pretty good mechanic. I like that. I like how this idea here, this future idea, is like kind of a way of, I'm not going to say a jab at, because of course this is Japanese. I feel like this was their like way of like implementing, not necessarily a jab at the Western problems that are going on out on American soil, but I think that's pretty interesting how that makes it to where you can't just go around shooting people because it is programmed to an inspector. Pretty neat, pretty nifty, is great. Also within the Dominator being able to go through different thresholds. So if it scans you and you're like not really bad and your crime coefficient isn't that high, it'll let you know to just neutralize the target and to just apprehend. Also, it has a different threshold where you're just like super criminal and it turns into a lethal just a nuke. It just nukes a person, vaporizes them. It is crazy on how that happens. You have to, like I said, you have to watch it. It's pretty interesting, very great. But for the most part, the setting of that is just mainly you have inspectors that are out taking care of crimes. It's kind of like watching a cyberpunk Law and Order special victims unit. That's kind of like what this is, and it's pretty amazing. You got to watch it. It's one of those, like, that's what I felt like I was watching. I felt like I was watching an anime Law and Order that was just really well written. It's great. Got a lot of plot twists. It's awesome. And we're gonna dive deep into like a couple of the characters that are like worthy mentions, and we're gonna try to stay away from spoilers. So bear with me. I will make sure to not ruin your experience of being able to watch this show. So for the most of the show, we are actually coasting through autopilot through the point of view of Akane Tsunemori. She is the newest rookie that's part of Unit 1 in Division 1 of the Ministry of the Public Safety. It is pretty interesting on how all that goes. Her enforcer is Shinya Kogami, and it is pretty interesting. They have a pretty interesting relationship. An interesting relationship is pretty cool on how all that is going on. The Shinya ends up basically taking Tsunemori and turning her into like more of a good thinker, to like be able to process things and make clear judgment decisions without being clouded by feelings, and being able to make sure she's not caught off guard. It's kind of like watching Training Day with Denzel Washington and Colin Farrell. It's kind of how that played out. Very much so worth watching. Again, it's just one of those situations. So the main enemy for at least season 1 or Psycho-Pass 1 is the main antagonist is Shogo Makishima. Is pretty wild on how this goes. A lot of things are like going on there. They end up meeting more enforcers. They have a very awesome inspector. It's an older guy, Genoza. Then we also have Tomomi. We have Shusei Kagari, and then of course we have Yayoi Konezuka. And it is pretty interesting on how all this goes. Tsunemori goes through so many different changes throughout the show. There's a lot of different things that are going on. And for the most part, they're chasing around and trying to get leads to get to Makishima, because Makishima's starting a whole bunch of problems that like a bunch of different murders that are going on that is connected to him. One of them is through cyber attacks. Is pretty interesting. Is one of those situations where Makishima is just able to like be anywhere and everywhere and be one step ahead of them for so long. And then there's like a bunch of betrayal. There's a bunch of treason, a bunch of a lot of different things that is going on within the show. It is just amazing. Like, I just don't know how else to break down such a good show. It's really good. Unfortunately, with me not being able to watch the third season, it makes me sad. I feel like I'm not doing a good justice as far as this review goes, but we will cover both Psycho-Pass 1 and 2 as much as I can without, once again, spoiling it. It's, like I said, it's worthwhile. And in Psycho-Pass, the relationship that goes on between Akane and Shinya is pretty darn crazy. Once again, Shinya is so important to the show. You have to watch it. Throughout the rest of the show, you end up seeing a lot of different development changes. We end up seeing Shinya actually leaving and running away to pursue Makishima for other reasons that I cannot mention. Huge spoiler. It's just crazy. It's crazy. And then, of course, the other mystery relationship that's going on throughout all this. And then Akane is also going through other interesting things that is very wild. She has this friend that she meets up with for lunch and stuff, and they talk about how things are getting increasingly dangerous for her and how everything's kind of going on. It is pretty wild. It's wild. It's worth watching. You just have to check it out. Now, as far as Psycho-Pass go, we start to see, in my opinion, a very interesting decline in the activity of how the show tends to run from point A to point B. And I'm talking about straight into Psycho-Pass 2. Psycho-Pass 2, I don't know why they named it that. It's literally just a second season, pretty much, but they just dubbed it Psycho-Pass 2. I don't know why they did that. And it's actually pretty short. They do some weird stuff. But we're going to hop into that, and we're going to cover on how Psycho-Pass 2, how that development happened, and also did it live up to the standard of Psycho-Pass. In Psycho-Pass 2, or Psycho-Pass Season 2, we also jump right back into the eyes of Akane Tsunemori. We're going through a weird situation. They have a lot of different things. We're also met with newer people. We actually have two new enforcers. We have Sakuya Togane and Sho Hanekawa. And also we did see Genoza was demoted to an enforcer, and Kunizuka and two new enforcers were Sakuya and Sho. We also have a new rookie, Mika Shimutsuki. Sorry. It's so odd having to do all these pronouncing, and I'm trying to make sure I do not mess up. Also, we have a new enemy in the form of Kirito Kamui. Now, Kamui, it is freaking crazy on how this guy works. Kamui changed the game. Now, as far as how I feel about the the season 2, I feel like season 2 was really disturbing. It was super, super annoying. I feel like they dropped the ball on it. It's kind of like watching I felt like they dropped the ball in the sense of it wasn't as powerful. I felt like it didn't just have that. It didn't have that oomph. It's kind of like watching Sword Art Online, and you watch like the half of the first season, and you're just like just mouth jaw dropping, the rich storyline, the rich suspense and threat. They almost take it away with how this goes, but we're also met with a lot of different things. And in this iteration of it, in season 2, we're met with Tsunemori going through a lot of different things. And in this one, I hate to foreshadow a lot of things and bring in a slight spoiler alert. We are missing Shinya inside this season. Shinya is now on the run, gone, thought of to maybe even be dead. And Tsunemori's kind of going through a lot of different heartache over this, because that was a really, well, for one, Shinya did things at the end of the last season that kind of compromised everything for season 2. So they're kind of trying to go through things, and he's like public enemy number 1, kind of like of a hunted manhunt, most wanted kind of guy. And then you have Tsunemori, who's just hoping not to, or like to run into him to try to reunite and rekindle and get things going again. But she just doesn't have the heart to do it because she knows she has a job to do. And of course, the Sibyl system is completely just, is just crazy on how it panned out. They end up having the Sibyl system kind of take a crash, and then everything is like just going wild, just haywire. And in this one, Kamui exploits that system. We see a huge development where this Kamui, who he's able to hide his crime coefficient and able to pass that over to other people to hide their crime coefficient while they go out and commit crimes. And when I mean commit crimes, we're talking about committing murders, and able to just completely decimate people without throwing off their psychopath coefficient. It is kind of crazy on how that is going. But you have Kamui, who's doing this and trying to exploit the Sibyl system and trying to take it down. That is a whole different level of how the show was going, in the direction of the show. It is very interesting, very nice, very different, and makes you want to just watch it. Is like very good. As far as like the cliffhangers and the jabs that the first season had, this one's nothing compared, but the layout and the legwork to get there, it's very good. You just got to hold in there. It's great, I promise. It's just, I have to give an honest review, and I do not want to lead people on to where thinking that the second season is going to like just live up to that suspenseful hype that the first one had. They just went all out for that first season, and it was just amazing, and it shows. So Kamui also basically like has an insurrection against the Sibyl system, and then Akane learns a lot about the Sibyl system and how corrupt and how they do things and how they manage to determine a lot of different judgment calls. It is pretty interesting on what happens when we get to that point in the show. The climax of season 2 isn't as high as season 1, but is still, overall, it's still good. It's still really good. And then it's very wild because the new rookie, Mika, she is so she's so bratty. Like, you end up not liking her, but she ends up there's just so much going on between them. It's Tsunemori. It's just a lot of things going on between them. It's still worth watching though. You just have to bear with it and kind of get over a few things here and there. But overall, still good. Really solid anime. Worth watching. Overall, they did good with being able to write a decent story that made sense and also handled different core things. I think the only thing that did turn out bad was really just kind of seeing how we lost a really, really, really healthy, strong member from the first season and moving forward. I have not watched the third season yet, so I really can't give my 2 cents. Matter of fact, I think I watched one episode in sub, and you learn something that is wild with that. We see season 3 open up with Tsunemori as an enforcer rather than an investigator. Changes everything. It is wild. It's just wild. It makes you just want to think, what the hell happened? Why are we here? How are we here? And what's to come next? It's a game changer on how they did that. They handled it well. I enjoyed it. Will you enjoy it? That is definitely for you to determine, but I promise that solid anime will keep you coming for more. You'll go back and watch it. You'll end up watching all the movies. I will take some time to go check out these movies and catch up, but you have to take the time to watch the series. The series is so well planned out. Make sure that when you're watching this, you just keep a really good open mind towards everything. It'll tear you alive if you're not ready for it. But I do solemnly have to say, if I had to rate this anime, I would have to give it an 8 out of 10. It's really good, rich story, a lot of action, a lot of death, and a lot of if you like mystery, that it's a really good, high, rich in mystery. I enjoy mystery, of course. I think the only time I really don't enjoy mystery is when they just kind of like not have enough to just draw you in and think about what else is going to happen next. This one does it. You're always thinking. You're always on your toes, and I enjoy that. It's very refreshing. It's nice. You can't go wrong. And also, within this episode, I would like to say thank y'all all for listening and staying tuned with this series. The series has been going. It's been going great. I enjoy making this kind of content for everyone. The anime is just a really touching area of life for me. I grew up on it. It makes the world go round for me, and you can always just like chat about it, talk about everything. It's like endless anime, so like you can never run out of anime to talk about. That's the awesome part about anime. There's just so much you can talk about, so many things that are happening within the universes, and you know, it is that kind of thing. It's awesome. But thank y'all all for tuning in. This was another well-crafted anime that is worth watching. And until next time, but before that, I would like to say, please leave reviews, leave ratings. Contact me if you have any kind of discussions that you would like to talk about. I would like to get a guest on here to have a discussion about any anime under the sun. Pretty sure I've probably either seen it or however it falls. It's just one of those bridges that I would like to be able to walk alongside the listeners. So thank you all. This was Anime Talks, and this is your host, Jay Klein. We're out.